Hi all, welcome to Environmental Science 101. Um, this kind of course, this material that is being presented to you is just going to give you an overview of what environmental science is about, at least pieces of what environmental science is about. Often we'll talk about science in general, because of a lot of environmental science has to do with similar things that are going on in this picture here with research of a natural system, research that's looking at the effects of humans on native landscapes, or documenting baseline information to see what might happen if humans do affect the natural landscape. But it all really evolves around the science piece, that there has to be a specific way to conduct research. There's a specific way to go out, ask a question, design an experiment, collect data, analyze data, present results. And that, for the most part, is following the scientific method, which we'll talk about in this class, and we'll often use the scientific method to collect data for this class and present results, etc. Okay, so just keep in mind that often we'll be talking about just science in general, and it might pertain to all sciences: physics, chemistry, biology, physiology, genetics. It doesn't really matter, because they're all related. They're scientific studies or scientific groupings, and they all kind of carry out the research in a similar way. Okay, so first thing though, for this course that I want all students to do is calculate your ecological footprint, or your eco footprint. So if you calculate your eco footprint, just go to this site, fill out your information the best you can, and then you can bring it to lecture on Monday. The purpose of this is to see kind of that baseline information. Where do we start? Where are you personally at the beginning of this course? Are there ways that you can add things to your life that decreases your effect on the planet? Are there things that you can take away that decreases your effect on the planet? Because overall, you're going to see that many of us, especially being in North America, that many of us have a greater footprint on the planet than our neighboring continents, neighboring countries, and we tend to take more than we give. And so I want everyone to go through and look at their eco footprint, and we'll discuss ways at which we can maybe be more wise when it comes to resources and our effect on the planet. And we'll talk about these kind of things quite often. Okay, so basic rules of science. Okay, so again, environmental science, it is a science. And the interesting thing about environmental science that we'll probably talk about is environmental science is often dealing with hard sciences. So maybe it's dealing with, different aspects of chemistry. Maybe we're talking about water chemistry, or we're talking about air, the chemistry of air or soils. We might be talking about physics. We might be talking about, how things move, wind speed, the effects of, currents and speed and velocity on different things. We may be talking about the biology. So what are the native organisms, the plants, the animals, what's in that region, how are we affecting it? But those are the hard sciences, or what sometimes are called the hard sciences. But we also talk environmental science, we also talk about the softer sciences. Normally soft sciences are dealing with things like human relations, sociology, psychology. Okay, maybe we'll even talk a little bit about history, because all these things play a role in environmental science. Because often environmental science is looking at the role that humans play in the environment, or the effects of humans on the environment. Okay, so basic rule of science, it's pursuit and application of natural social world, but the biggest piece is the collection and analysis of evidence. Okay? So in here, in this course, and really in any science course, your instructor, professor might tell you that in the absence of evidence, your opinion is meaningless. Alright, so you can have an opinion on lots of things in your entire life, but when it comes to scientific things or science, you have to have evidence. Alright, that's one of the key components of science, is you need to have collected data, or someone has to have collected data that you're citing for, that you're basing that opinion on. Other things, sometimes, in say English or creative writing, it might just be your opinion on a piece, or even in art, maybe you have an opinion on a piece of art, and it's just the feeling that you get from that art, or maybe it means something to you. In science, we try to eliminate that bias, and we try to only use things that are based in hard evidence. Okay, so opinions are fine, but opinions must be based off of hard evidence. And you're going to see when we do debates in this course that that's a key component of a debate, is, are you supporting your opinions on the debate in scientific evidence, or is it just opinion? Okay. So 4 major concepts in the science. So first are facts. Okay, so these are just generalized things like, the height of an object, okay, the temperature of a body of water, the salinity of a body of water, how many organisms there are in a given area. Those are facts. Okay, those are observations that we can calculate, that we can collect, analyze, etc. Okay? From those facts, though, we often will develop a hypothesis. Okay, and so a hypothesis, it used to be taught to students that it's an educated guess. Okay, but I don't want you to just think of hypotheses as educated guesses, because they're not really guesses. They're explanations. Right? They're explanations for natural phenomena. Okay? For things that occur, especially when we're talking about environmental science, okay? Things that occur in a natural system. It's an explanation. Now, does the explanation have to be right? Absolutely not. But the one thing that it has to be is it has to be testable. It has to be a testable explanation. Okay? So this is what separates it from being an educated guess. Guesses don't have to be testable. Okay? Guesses don't even have to be based in facts. Okay? But hypotheses, on the other hand, they have to be testable explanations for that natural phenomena. Okay? From this, if your hypotheses are supported by evidence, if your hypotheses have gone through many research projects, many manipulations, been tested multiple times, and they're always supported by the data, then we can develop theories from that. Okay? So a theory is a more broad explanation for that natural phenomena, and it's often theories can change, but they're often more rigorous and tend to not be falsified, tend to not be refuted very often. Okay? And so, like, some theories that you might think of is, like evolutionary theory or the theory of natural selection, germ theory, even gravity is a theory, friction is a theory. Sometimes these theories have been they've been lifted or brought up to what we call laws, because laws mean, in science, laws mean that the refuting of that theory or that original hypothesis is highly unlikely under the natural conditions. Yes, we can change conditions so drastically that we can probably violate the law. Okay? But when we talk about laws in science, it means under natural conditions on this planet, these hold true time and time and time again, and we've studied them enough. They've been ran through so many experiments that they basically are considered true. Now, that doesn't mean that you cannot reject the law. It doesn't mean that you cannot have an experiment in which the law is violated. Right? This happens all the time. Like, we have a law in biology, which is the Mendelian law, and under certain circumstances, it's violated. Okay, or at least it doesn't cover certain situations. Certain types of genetic manipulations are not covered by that law, that Mendel's law. Okay, so just keep that in perspective. So in science, we're really looking at four major concepts, four major pursuits. Facts are nice. That's what we typically deal with in a course like this. We're typically collecting data. We're gaining the facts. Okay, we might design some hypotheses. Okay, some explanations for things that we see in a natural system. They could be supported by evidence. They could be rejected by the evidence. But these first two pieces are often what research scientists are doing. Okay? Then, after you design hypotheses that have stood the test of time, the test of experiments, they might be raised to a new level in which we would now consider them theories, which means that they've been supported time and time again. They're highly unlikely to be rejected or refuted, but they're not to the point where we consider them the constant for a given system. Okay? And theories are often more broad than laws. So you might have, like we talked about just a few minutes ago, the theory of evolution by means of natural selection, that species change over time based on the environment and the change in the environment. Okay? This is a theory, it's not a law, because it's really broad. First of all, it covers all species. And, we haven't even named all species. We haven't discovered all species. Okay? We've discovered roughly 2 million species that have names put to them. We think that just in the insect world that we're probably dealing with 3 to 5 million species of insects, right? And we haven't even touched the world when it comes to bacteria, when it comes to fungi, even protozoans. Okay? There's so many different species out there that labeling something, a broad explanation for how things change when you haven't discovered everything, that's kind of a tough go. And so that's why evolution is not a law. Also, the idea of evolution is that things change over time. So typically in laws, we want to describe a constant. Okay, and so the constant of changing all the time, that doesn't really make sense. So there are some things that are considered theories that have been tested numerous times and really never been refuted, but will never be elevated to a law, just given the context of what the topic is. Okay, so there are very few theories in biology. I mean, very few laws in biology. There's lots of laws in chemistry and physics, and it's mainly really has to do with biology is the study of life. Life's always changing, and it's hard to put some constant explanation on changing life. Okay? But regardless of that, these are kind of the things that we're going to talk about in class as we pursue the course. Okay. When we come back, we're going to talk about pseudoscience and give some examples of things that are sometimes labeled science, but they don't go through the scientific method. Okay, so things that can't go through the scientific method or explanations that seem scientific based but are not testable are often labeled pseudoscience or fake science. Okay, next time.